Fans of Zack Snyder and James Gunn have been at war with each other ever since 2022, but ironically enough, Snyder and Gunn are good friends. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Please like, share and subscribe for more. It was 2013 when iconic director Zack Snyder, who had previously directed Dawn of the Dead and Watchmen, brought us a film starring Henry Cavill in the leading role of Superman in a film titled Man of Steel. Even though fans of James Gunn and Zack Snyder have been at a constant war ever since the former was announced as the co-head of DC Studios back in 2022, there's something beautiful about the friendship between Gunn and Snyder. A certain section of the fans revolted when it was announced that James Gunn would be directing the upcoming DCU movie, Superman, previously titled Superman, Legacy, as comparisons and parallels were drawn between his vision and Zack Snyder's 2013 movie, Man of Steel. However, when Gunn needed to solve a Superman problem, he contacted Zack Snyder for some help. Ironically enough, although the fans are at war, directors James Gunn and Zack Snyder are on good terms, and have often had talks with each other after Snyder left the DCU. However, when James Gunn announced back in 2023 that David Corenswet was going to be the new Superman in the upcoming DCU movie, people weren't too happy about it. Negative comments were all over the internet, and an all-out war broke out between fans of Zack Snyder and James Gunn. The red trunks were a problem. Superman wasn't looking cool. That's because David Corenswet and James Gunn hadn't embraced the fact that Superman was supposed to look like this from the start. In an interview with Rotten Tomatoes, James Gunn admitted that when he found a Superman problem, he didn't hesitate to ask for help from Zack Snyder. One of the biggest questions was, were we going to have trunks, or were we going to not have trunks? I talked to Zack Snyder, who was like, I tried a billion different versions with the trunks, and I couldn't get there. He continued, and I was feeling exactly the same way. I went in with David, he tried it not trunks, and he tried it trunks, and I was still going to go with not trunks. Theoretically, I liked the idea of trunks because it's, the Superman I grew up with. David Corenswet weighed in on the conversation when he agreed with Gunn that, but the problem is they look kind of silly. So, that's where the director and the cast of Superman found themselves. The question to wear red trunks or no red trunks was a pretty important one since the trunks made Superman stand out, and were also his special attire. But on the other hand, they also looked kind of silly. That's when David Corenswet revealed that he had a solution. The trunks were, after all, supposed to represent Superman in a friendly way and give a sense of hope to even little children, and not some dark form of an ancient god who wielded a weapon of mass destruction. Well, you wanted trunks in theory. But the problem is they look kind of silly. You were looking for a way to make them look cool, or you were looking for a function, an explanation for having them, to justify them. Corenswet continued. And my thing was just, maybe they're supposed to look a little silly, maybe the reason he wears them is to look a little silly, basically to undermine how powerful he really is. Well, it seems that David Corenswet and James Gunn will indeed have a chance to prove their Superman's uniqueness when the movie releases in theaters. Although we cannot say with certainty that the red trunks will look awesome or not, what we can say is that it's going to be a heck of an experience. In a separate interview with Fandango, James Gunn and David Corenswet sat down to talk about the issue of the red trunks and finally, how they came to solve it. Surprisingly, it was actually Corenswet
Warner Brothers
who simply
almost
said
brought in
to
Michael
embrace
Bay
the
to
direct Man of Steel 2, nearly swapping Snyder's brooding vision for explosive mayhem. Yeah, it got wild. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Please like, share and subscribe for more. Warner Brothers almost swapped Zack Snyder for Michael Bay in Man of Steel 2. Back in 2022, the studio eyed Bay to direct a new Superman film starring Henry Cavill, before James Gunn took the reins for the upcoming reboot launching the DCU on July 11th. At one point, Warner Brothers considered blowing up everything we knew about Man of Steel, literally. While Zack Snyder had shaped the Superman mythos with his gritty style, the studio reportedly flirted with the idea of bringing in none other than Michael Bay for the sequel. It would have been a radical tonal shift, swapping slow mo brooding for Bayhem. Though it never materialized, the thought alone explains just how unhinged the studio was in its search for a new direction post-Snyder. The cape stayed, but the vision nearly got nuked. The stakes are huge. This film kicks off a 10-year interconnected plan by Gunn and co-CEO Peter Safran, aiming to rival the MCU. But if Superman falters, the whole plan could wobble. DC's cautious, greenlighting only Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow so far, while shelving riskier projects like Sergeant Rock. After the Discovery-Warner Media merger and leadership shakeups, Zaslav has positioned Gunn and Safran as the new DC power duo, reporting directly to him and mirroring Marvel's successful setup. As Zaslav said, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Supergirl are big asset builders for the company worldwide. This Superman isn't just any flick, it's the litmus test for Warner Bros. Discovery CEO David Zaslav's ambitious plan to reboot the DC universe after years of inconsistent efforts. With a $225 million budget, the film needs to soar past $700 million worldwide to be a real hit. An insider revealed, if it hits $500 million, it turns a profit, but $700 million is where it truly counts, via the wrap. Cavill's earlier Superman outings, Man of Steel, $670 million, and Batman v Superman, $874 million, set the bar but never launched a lasting universe. Now, David Corenswet steps into the cape, alongside Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane and Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, with a younger cast that's more fresh-faced than A-list draw. McQuarrie revealed on Happy Sad, confused that Green Lantern's powers were tricky but fun to crack. He alluded, "Green Lantern was what had come to me. Green Lantern's a tough one. The power is very challenging, and I cracked it and it was fun, and watching learn how to use that power, and giving that power a flaw, so that it was not pure invincibility. That's the thing that made him. Yeah, you have infinite power, but you only have so much battery life and that can run out at inconvenient times. That, for me, solved the whole Green Lantern problem. This flaw added real stakes. No invincible hero here." The conflict worked because Superman and Green Lantern shared amazing similarities, McQuarrie said, which led to an amazing universe-expanding resolution. Costume designs weren't the focus. Tension and stakes were. The vision was bold, fresh, and might yet inspire future DC projects. Even though fans were robbed of from the Man of Steel 2, the upcoming movies might just soothe the wound. The failed Man of Steel 2 pitch featured an amazing conflict between Superman and another Justice League member, Green Lantern. Director Christopher McQuarrie teamed up with Henry Cavill to craft a sequel that never happened, but Zack Snyder's unfiltered epic vision of Justice League was only made possible due to the fans, and Snyder bows down to them. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Please like, share, and subscribe for more. As a tireless campaign spread through social media like a plague, DCU fans hounded Warner Bros. For years before the studio finally conceded to fan demand. The resulting Snyder's cut with an extended 4-hour-long vision of the director's ambitious story made the fans resent WB even more for rejecting his planned 5-movie arc for Justice League. However, the director knows when not to push his luck in the ever-changing game of Hollywood musical chairs, although Snyder gives credit where it is due. The DC Extended Universe has had its fair share of problems. But the most objectionable of them was Zack Snyder's third film, Justice League, which went through hell and back.